listening to Unfiltered with Muhammad Uncut, a podcast about personal growth and authentic leadership. If you're looking for tips on how to manage others, get ahead, and make your way up the corporate ladder, this is not the show for you. This podcast is about being of service to others, leading from the heart, and evolving into a better version of yourself. Each episode brings you motivated stories about unfiltered leadership and authentic leaders, those who involve others, use their influence to amplify diverse perspectives, and inspire teams to achieve collective results. If this sounds like you, keep listening. Hello, and welcome to the Unfiltered Podcast with Mohammed Hamoud and my unfiltered guest, Ryan Estis. Good afternoon, Ryan. So glad to have you here. Thank you for joining me.
Oh, it's great to be here, Mohammed. I was looking forward to the conversation.
Likewise. And Ryan, I always start by truly from the heart complimenting my guests because I work hard to get the people that I do on this podcast. You asked me before we started recording, who's my audience? Why do I do this? This is about us becoming the best version of ourselves. It's about leading ourselves first, because when we can truly get to know who we are, lead ourselves first, we can lead others, we can have an awareness of others. And in a world right now that's as crazy as it is, and you know that, and we'll talk about it, this is what we need most. We need that awareness of ourselves and the desire to show up wanting and caring for others. And I know that's what matters to you. It's why I've been following you for the past couple of years. I'm a big fan, as I've said. And for those who don't know who Mr. Estes is, I'll just have a little scripted bio of who you are. So Ryan Estis has more than 20 years of experience as a top performing sales professional and leader. As the former Chief Strategy Officer for the McCann World Group Advertising Agency, NAS, he brings a fresh perspective to business events. As an incredible and talented, and I added those, keynote speaker, Ryan is known for his innovative ideas on leading change, improving sales effectiveness, and preparing the future for the real sort of work that we need to do. And that's not a surprise, because he was recently recognized as one of the best keynote speakers ever heard by Meetings and Conventions magazine, alongside Tony Robbins, Bill Gates, Colin Powell, and Mike Dicta. I recognize the first three. I don't know who Mike is, but I've got some homework to do. Ryan delivers keynote speeches, courses, and online learning with an emphasis on actionable content designed to elevate business performance. His writing has been featured in various publications such as Smart Brief, Business News Network, CRM, Crane's Business Workforce Management Magazine, HR Professional Magazine, a slew more, including Yahoo Business Times. And for God's sakes, get to it, Mohammed. That's why you're my guest today, because I think you're just awesome. So welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you for such a warm welcome, and thank you for the incredible work and service you're doing. We are certainly kindred spirits on the personal growth and transformation journey. So we share the passion, and that's why I was looking forward to this. So,
well, Ryan, I'm going to start there, because when you talk about passion, I see you, I watch you, I hear you, I feel you. I've watched your keynotes and your presentations, and in the old world where we used to live, and public speaking was still something that people craved to partake in. This is where you brought energy, enthusiasm, and uplifting personality to the stage. So I want to start there, because people tend to see us for who we present ourselves to be. They see us for this mask that we put on, rightly or wrongly, and we know we work our butts off to get there. I want to ask you, because as natural as performance comes to you, and authentic performance, I would say,
thank you,
it comes with a lot of hard work. Can we start there? Can you tell me a bit about who Ryan is and how you got to where you are in terms of your speaking and your presentations?
Yeah, so just a little bit of context. I grew up, I'm the son of two school teachers, so I think the teaching gene or DNA or something was always inside me. I was a curious kid. I consider myself a lifelong learner and a student. And I started my career, traditional business career. You heard in my bio, I worked in the advertising industry. And I will tell you, a motivational speaker saved my life. I was 22, 23 years old, my first sales job. About 9 months in, I hadn't made a sale. I was on the verge of getting fired and moving back into my parents' basement to sell baseball cards for beer money. And I caught a break. Much to my father's dismay, and I caught a break. And through happenstance, it was a chance circumstance. A friend of mine invited me to go to this networking event. He said there was a free happy hour and we could leave at the break. So I said, okay. I had about $10 in my checking account. So free food, free beer. I'm in. And a gentleman named Jim Rohn took the stage. And for you or your listeners, the people that aren't familiar with Jim Rohn, he really was one of the, in my opinion, one of the founding fathers of the personal growth and transformation movement. Extraordinary professional speaker. He was Tony Robbins' mentor, actually. That's how Tony got
something.
Yep, yeah. Tony got his start working for
Jim.
And so I got to see Jim live. And at that point in my life, I just hadn't been exposed to that kind of information. He talked about creating a personal library and accountability and goal setting and morning routines. And I was just... that was it. The switch got flipped and I went all in. I bought the books he recommended. I bought his books on tape, and I went from not being able to close a door, let alone a sale, to within 18 months, I was the #1 salesperson in the company. And as I moved up into management, I started speaking as part of my executive role. I had a real passion for it. Obviously Jim changed my life. So I was someone that became very committed to self-help, personal growth. I mean, if there's anything that's ever been recorded or written on professional selling, I've read it. I'm a big fan of retreats and seminars. It's just made it part of my life. And as I had an opportunity to speak on behalf of my company, those were the days I looked the most forward to. I enjoyed doing it. I had a passion for it. And, like things that we're excited about, over time, I got better at it and realized there was an opportunity to build a business around it. And in 2009, in the middle of the Great Recession, I took my leap of faith, and that's what I did. And I've never looked back.
And we're glad that you did. And, and you make it sound easy. You just did it again. You made it sound easy, right? But for the benefit of my listeners, you worked your butt off.
Yeah, no, there was nothing easy about it. I think, if you have persistence, patience, and a deep intention or desire that over a decade, and Tony says this, he says, we overestimate what we can accomplish in 6 months. We underestimate what we can accomplish in a decade. And so, there was no overnight success. It was 16 years at the ad agency. I've been building my business for 11 years. And I can tell you, when I launched my business, I made every rookie mistake, bad partnership, bad contract. 3 or 4 different times I almost quit. There were many nights where I was lying awake, staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m., holding the phone, thinking I was going to call my boss and beg for my old job back. But the sun came up, and maybe out of fear or shame, I didn't. And I kept on going. So it was a very, very difficult couple years out of the gate. But I don't regret those challenges. And oftentimes I recall those times as beautiful, because they were shaping me, right? It was those obstacles, those barriers, I was learning through those, and those little micro failures made me wiser and stronger. And I'd have a little moment of success, a little breakthrough, and that kept my energy and for it going. So no, there's nothing fast or easy or overnight about it. So for anyone that's listening, if you're willing to invest 25 years in yourself, you may become something someday. That was my experience. I went the long road, but I'm better for it today. So.
Well, I think you learned something about resilience. And, if it wasn't so cliche, I'd call you Resilient Ryan, right? But it's like when we go to the gym and we work out, and, we come home and our muscles feel sore. And then, for a couple of days, we rest, and then we go back at it. It becomes a little easier, and you build that muscle. Same thing with your mental muscle. You need to figure out what's working, what doesn't work. And same thing with your the way that you behave in terms of your business acumen. You're not going to get it right. I love the way you talked about it, micro failures. You know what? Something that goes shitty wrong today, all of a sudden, that's it. I'm giving up, right? But that could be a micro failure, because it's an opportunity to just shift and kind of turn the car that we're driving in the direction maybe a little different, because we don't know what direction we're going in sometimes, right, Ryan?
This point, I believe, is extremely important for people that are interested in becoming more, growing, actualizing their potential. And you said it right, we encounter resistance and we give up. So many people give up too soon. They're on the precipice of a breakthrough. And so the way I frame micro failures, because I'm like, oh my God, that didn't work. Everything's collapsing. This was a bad idea. I want to go back over there where it's safe. Our brains are wired to do that. So the way I frame this is, I'm always conducting 3 or 4 little experiments. We're running an experiment. We're doing this right now in our marketing. And the goal of the experiment isn't some big success. It's to gain intelligence, right? I don't know, that may work, it may not work. This is one of our experiments. It's a risk. We've put an investment in this. We've framed it as one of our experiments, and now we're letting it iterate, and we're collecting data, we're observing it, we're learning about it, and we will either iterate it forward or take that learning and apply it to something else. And that way I framed it up, because I can tell you on the journey forward to becoming who you're meant to be, you are going to encounter obstacles, adversity, challenges, setbacks, pain, resistance. And the resilient among us accept that and break through to the other side. That's part of the journey. So, and the reframing, kind of the resilience muscle, you're right, you can learn resilience. It is like a muscle. Really resilient people actually anticipate the adversity. It's like, well, things are pretty good. I wonder what's around there. There it is. There's that challenge. We hadn't had one of those in a while. And so when you have that mindset, things are in a constant state of flux. The hard parts are coming, but I'm confident now I can navigate them. And look, I fell apart multiple times during the Great Recession. I mean, there's a lot of anxiety, stress, panic, paranoia, sleepless nights. I moved through the crisis we're navigating now much quicker. I just don't feel that way right now. I'm more optimistic about the future than I've ever been, because I've been there before.
Right.
My muscle got stronger.
And I want to go there, and I don't want to give away the kind of what I really want to dive into, which is where you are and where you're going and why that message is important. But I want to go back to something that you said. We're getting there, right? We're always in the process of becoming that better self, right? I don't think I get up one morning and say, hey, here he is, I'm here. No, like it's an ongoing process. And I think, to your point, you can't, a lot of the time people get stuck in the victim syndrome. And, it's not to disrespect people who also have forces outside of them that are beyond their control. But what is in our control is how we can reshape and we can respond. And Ryan, let's go to it now. You talked about how in the recession, right, in 2009, you had the confidence and the courage to break through and to go on your own. And right now, I know about a few months ago, you were actually, you were going through a hard time, right?
There's no doubt about it. So in 2009, I don't know how much courage I had. The reality is I wanted to leave for a couple of years, and I was terrified to do it. That's why I say the Great Recession was my greatest gift, because it forced my hand. Our company was going sideways. The industry was falling apart. We were going through layoffs. I just didn't want to be there anymore. And so when the pain of staying the same became greater than my fear of the unknown, then it was time to take my shot and venture out into uncharted territory. But I was terrified. And so, this time around, I definitely experienced the dip, for sure. Late March through April. And I, it was everything I had worked for was sort of vanishing right before my eyes.
And you couldn't see it, right? No one knew where this was going.
And that's exactly right. I mean, we forecast for all kinds of potential challenges and competitive influence and market dynamics. Nobody could have seen an airborne pandemic where there was a government restriction on people actually gathering. So it happened so quickly, and it was definitely painful. And I went into exactly what you suggested you shouldn't go into: victim mentality. So why is this happening to me? It's so unfair, and other industries are going to be fine, but mine's being ruined, and this isn't everything I work for. And that's just the wrong question. It's the wrong statement. A much better way to frame it is, given that I'm here, what am I going to do about it, or what can I create? I can't control the pandemic, but I can control how, if I get up at 5 a.m. and work out every day. I can't control the pandemic, but I can control how many words I write each day. I can't control the pandemic, but I can control how quickly we create production partnerships in a virtual home studio. I can't control the pandemic, but I can control how many ex-clients I talk to today that are going to have to embrace virtual learning. I can't control the pandemic, but I can control whether I write a book this summer or not. And so when you start to realize that, wow, I have time I didn't have before. My clients need me in a different way than they did before. I'm going to learn new skills than I've had previously. Maybe I could reinvent myself yet again, and in 18 months have an even better business. Wow. And that is the place I want to play from. It's a place of empowerment and confidence and curiosity and perspective. So I would have never wished this, but I'm grateful for the moment of pause to step back and look at things at a different angle and through a different lens.
Right. And, you know, I love, and God bless you for your transparency and your show of vulnerability. You know, I took permission from you first to go there, and I knew you'd say yes. The reason I wanted to talk about this is to tell people, you know what? If somebody as resilient as Ryan, somebody who's created a 7-figure business, right? And somebody who has gone on stage and public speaking, and somebody who can mesmerize an audience and move people to change their lives by the words and how he delivers a message, can feel like shit, can feel like the world rains shit on him. Excuse my 4-letter words here, right? But, right? If you could feel that the world is raining that victim mentality on you, pushing you down, and you could go to that dark place, then it's okay for us to say to anyone, it's all right, right? But what you said, your response, right?
Yes. Here's the thing. Trauma is in pain and suffering and these great challenges. That's the catalyst for exponential growth. It's unfortunate that it works that way, but it always does. We don't grow in the status quo and where things are moving along comfortably. It's almost, at times, we almost have to get disrupted. And trauma can become a great accelerator. Our darkest moments can become our defining moments. Right. If we are awake to the lesson. And you talk about this idea of, you know, we have to, it's inside out, right? We share that, right? Belief system. Leaders are made from the inside out. You could have looked at me on the outside, right? In 2016, let's say, and said, wow, guy's doing 100 keynotes a year at a big fee, 7-figure business. He looks good. He's flying all over the country in first class. But on the inside, I was cracking. Right? I was exhausted. I was overwhelmed. I was ruining relationships back home because all I did was work. I was completely out of balance. I was saying yes to everything because this was my dream. It's what I dreamed for. And at the end of the year, I had a breakdown. I cracked. My relationship failed, and I had a huge health scare, a tumor in my left biopsy. Thank God it wasn't cancer, but that propelled me into, for the first time, really looking closely inside of me.
To what matters.
To what matters. Who am I? How did I get here? And what patterns are really guiding the decisions I'm making to construct this life? And it was me elevating my own self-awareness, healing some past trauma and pain, and then really kind of deciding and defining how I was going to create and build in the future. And that process, and it'll never end. I'm on that further journey still, but I'm doing it with an awareness that I never had previously. And I think that kind of work is the imperative and the opportunity to use these challenges and this moment as a catalyst to become more of who we're meant to be.
And so, Ryan, let me ask you, knee-jerk response here. Okay, really honest. Do you ever wish this adversity or these challenges to happen to you? Knee-jerk.
No,
thanks.
I don't wish for them.
There you go.
No, but yeah. I believe inevitably they are coming.
And so let me again, the reason I wanted to frame the question this way is I want people to realize no one sits around and, when you say, oh, we can see it coming, no one sits and says, hey, we're going to have this pandemic and government is going to say you can't go outside and you got to wear a mask and you've got to do this. No one wishes for the worst, but everyone needs to prepare for the worst. Now, help me out here, Ryan. By preparing for the worst doesn't mean we become worrywart and we'll worry about the things that never happen, but it means what?
You're preparing, you're anticipating adversity. So when it arrives, you can dance with it, right? We frame it this way. There's an old adage. That's a terrible adage. Prepare for the worst, but hope for the best. Wrong. You prepare for the worst and you work your ass off for the best. We work for the best, right? You said, well, tell them about the work and all the years. And we went to work. I worked harder the month of April this year than I had in the previous 10 years. And it was round the clock. It was reinvention time. And I didn't want that. I didn't want to be locked up in my loft by myself, trying to reinvent my business. But that's where we were. It's what was called for in that moment in time. So we anticipated adversity. We know that the road is winding and long. There are going to be bumps along the way. That's what this is. And I think next year is going to be bumpy too. But there will be another side. There will be another side to this. And we think a lot. I think a lot about how am I going to arrive there? What am I going to be like in January of 2022? Am I going to feel great, be confident? Am I going to be strong physically, emotionally, psychologically, mentally? Am I going to have great relationships? Am I going to have learned new things through this and read new books and met new people and gone on new podcasts? And that's the adventure of it all. And I just know that, we're in a tough season, but this is a winter, metaphorically. And I live in Minneapolis, and we're already. Oh yeah,
I know you got it bad. I've been up there in the summertime. I've been up there in the wintertime a few times, but I don't envy you. So we don't prepare. We don't wish for the worst, but we prepare for it because again, it's building that muscle because you don't know the weight that you have to carry, but it's being able to transfer that weight from a mountain on your back to a mountain that you climb. And I think of the story and the way you're telling it, Ryan, right? I can't wait till, and I know right now you're doing it virtually, and I don't want the old normal, and I don't want a friggin' new normal. I want a better new reality because I think some greater force, whether you call it God, Mother Nature, I call it God, whatever you believe in. But the earth is saying, hey, you walked upon me with your dirty feet long enough. I'm going to, humiliate you in terms of making you more humble. I'm going to make you aware of what you've been doing to me. So pause. Reflect and reset, and let's start fresh with your sisters and brothers in humanity, with each other, with nature. This is an opportunity for us that I hope we don't get again to this extreme, and I hope it doesn't winterize more than it already has. But this is an opportunity for us to say we can do better. But imagine when Ryan Estis gets on that stage again, and you tell your story. How is that going to move everybody?
Yeah, I look forward to that day where we're back out there again. What I hope I can tell people is that, at the onset of this, I took a knee. It was very, very painful for me, and I lost kind of who I was for a minute in it. I quickly recovered and then went on my further journey. And I looked for the opportunity. You said it beautifully. And I think what you said was look for the opportunity inside the challenge. This is hard. But there's a gift in there if you're awake to it. And, I believe we're embracing the gift. And I certainly want to. And it's a story that I'm going to be excited to tell on the other side of this thing.
Well, the lesson here is, do we ever really control anything other than our responses? Right? We don't. And you and I know that. We talk about it often. And yet the minute we put on a filter, and we put on this persona and we go to our workplaces and our relationships, we pretend that we are somehow this formidable individual and we can brace it all, but we are so insignificant. But the stories that we can tell can actually create so much significance for others, right? How do you come up with these stories? And here I talk to you as, I ask you as a speaker who struggles sometimes with knowing the story. So I'm shifting into Ryan Estis as the speaker and the mastermind behind your words.
Sure.
Where does that come from?
I think it comes from paying attention to the nuances and these magical moments that occur in everyday life. One of the stories I probably am known best for is a story about a meeting I had with a barista at Starbucks on Christmas Eve. And I always consider myself, I was awake to the experience and the lesson, but it's her story. I was gifted the privilege of telling it. It's not about me. It's about her. She is the lesson. She is the hero of the story. I'm the fortunate observer and the messenger. And that's the way I kind of look at it. I'm the messenger, and some of the stories come through me or are about me. And I blog, I write a lot, so I know what resonates, but I always say my blog, it's just my personal journal. The real secret to all of this is I'm writing and speaking for me. There's probably a terrified little boy somewhere inside there, and I'm kind of encouraging him. You can be resilient, Ryan. You can do it, Ryan. You can take the stage, Ryan. You're meant for more, Ryan. You've got to work out to be ready to greet the challenge, Ryan. And somehow that writing in that way, I think on my blog, with a little bit of, practical business advice from my business career, has resonated with people. And you realize, wow, a lot of other people are going through what you go through. And so it resonates.
Well, Ryan, and again, this is what you're doing on your Instagram. It's what you're doing with the videos that you share or the stories that you tell or the camera lens that captures an encounter with you at an airport restaurant. It is the message. To your point, we are no more than a messenger. We can be a messenger of good stories to tell, or we can be a messenger of doom and dismay and all, right? We get to choose. I don't think anybody wants you to get on the stage and talk about doom and dismay and you're not getting anywhere, and 2020 is going to break all of us. Somebody has to bring some hope and courage to the world, right?
Well, the reality is we get to assign the meaning to our own experiences. So, people could say, wow, the Great Recession was terrible. I'll interrupt. Whoa. That was my greatest gift, the Great Recession. Best thing that ever happened to me. I went on my further journey. So, that tumor in your arm, that was a near scare. Yes, but look where it led me. And thank God that relationship ended so I could have a new one and I will love again. And so we get to assign the meaning to our life experiences. And we get to assign the meaning to this moment in time, because here's the truth. The future hasn't happened yet. So assign your meaning, reframe your narrative, and then start writing the next chapter of your own beautiful, brilliant story.
Oh, I love that. I love the fact that you have empowered us that, we are the authors of the narratives that we tell. This is about, yes, I don't write the bigger story and all the actors that I meet. I'm a messenger, but I get to write my story, my narrative. I get to say it in my perspective. And that's what resonates. And, you talk about, I've heard you now say I and we, and I've heard you say we often. And that's because I know that behind the brand, behind Ryan Estis, you work with a team. You often talk about teams, but you work with a team. So tell me about teamwork and how you approach working with others and why that's important to what you do and how you do it.
Yeah, look, I want to work with people that share the same passionate commitment to helping others that I have. That's what our business is about. It's not about us, it's about them. And, we're the messengers, and we want that message to have meaning and matter to other people. And so I've cobbled together, a band of brothers and sisters who are committed to moving through this with me. And, I hired at the onset of this, one of my best friends and the best salesperson that ever worked for me at my old company, Lynn. She's my business manager. She's been with me since the very beginning. I've got a great executive assistant, Nina. We've got a great producer, Jeff, who does all of our virtual programming in studio. We've got a great marketing team with Mary Ellen and Rex at Reputation Capital. And we've got a great research partner, Don, my research director. So, we built this team, and I think we're all excited about what the future holds. But we go through it together. We share the same values. I think we share the same set of optimism and passion. We're committed to clients and creating great experiences for other people. And we've all been witness to the impact that when we're doing our best work, we can have. And that's pretty fulfilling for us. And so, it's not, and none of this is about me. It's about the impact we can have on someone else. That's why, my newsletter is called Prepare for Impact. And we want to have an impact in the world and make our work, our time here matter. That's it.
That's powerful, Ryan. Make our time and our work here in this world matter, because at the end of the day, and I'm starting to learn, because when people say to me, what legacy do you want to leave? And I say, I don't. I want to live the legacy. I don't want to leave one, right? And I'm not judging anybody for using that expression, but I'm starting to challenge a lot of the belief systems that we've had, because 2020 is asking us to rewrite our narrative. And for me, it's not about what I want to leave. Like when I did my TED Talk, I said, what do you want to leave behind? And actually, it's not what we want to leave behind. It's what we need to do now. It's what we need to live. It's right. Because otherwise, I'm waiting for some posthumous message that's going to tell my story.
You are spot on, and you lead your legacy, and you can do it right now through the impact you have on others. And that's why the work you're doing with this podcast, getting these messages out, creating community and connection,
thank you.
And hope and inspiring it's meaningful work. And this will be part of your legacy.
Well, and this is where I normally start out with other guests, is I ask them to define leadership, but I'm leaving that to the end with you. I know we've hinted at what your beliefs around leading is, but I'm going to ask you now, could you talk about it? This is why you get hired. People want to know, hey, what's Mr. Estis has to tell us about leadership? So tell my listeners, what's leadership mean to you?
Leadership isn't a job. It's a responsibility. And it isn't about us. It's about humility. It's about service. It's about sacrifice. It's about impact. It's about love.
I like that.
It is truly about helping other people become the best they're capable of being. It's an act of service. It's taking care of other people. And so I have these two questions, I call them my true north leadership questions, that I use as self-assessment questions, and I give them to leaders to remind leaders of the responsibility and the opportunity they have. And the first one is, we talked a little bit about impact. Who did I impact today? And the more specific you can be answering that question at the end of the day, the better served you've been. Who did I impact? And here's the second one. It gets to your comment about legacy. How will I be remembered by the people I worked with today? How did you show up? And you want to really pay attention to that self-inspection. Those two questions will heighten your self-awareness and allow you to be a true leader and champion for others.
Well, thank you, Ryan. I guess I'm very intentional about getting unfiltered leaders on this podcast, and it's not just to sneak in here a thing for the podcast, but I'll tell you what I mean by that. Especially men who want to work hard to create gender neutral places and spaces. We have to do that. Men who aren't afraid to look at themselves and to be in touch with their feminine and masculine side. So men who are self-aware, and men who aren't afraid to challenge the status quo. And because I struggled in my life, I was bullied when I was younger, and I never felt I was enough. I didn't feel right. I didn't feel man enough. I didn't feel masculine enough. I didn't feel macho enough. I didn't feel jockey enough. And that had an impact, but you don't realize that when you're going through it and getting older. So you come out of it and you look back and say, yeah, shit, that was hard, but I'm a better person for it, to your point earlier, how we respond. But I look back and I say, I want a platform where men who come across as these men, right, that they can talk about what a man is all about. So yes, I have a lot of women on this podcast, but I want men to recognize that we can't change the world. We can't change the corner office paradigm of white men in leadership positions and making more space at the table if we are not prepared to make that change ourselves. So that's why I invite people like you here, because it resonates, your vulnerability and your courage to speak out and, move forward. And I thank you for the service that you're making, because it is not just about a business. It's about a mindset. It's about a shift. It's about a new reality we all need to intentionally build together. And so here's where I go with my unfiltered thought of the week. I always ask the guest to whether it's advice or whether it's an aha moment that you've shared or an enlightenment, whatever it is that you've experienced, that you've grown from it, what is that one thing that you would share, that unfiltered thought, so that others can become better leaders, better humans, better people?
Yeah. So my one piece of advice would be to look inside of you and be honest with yourself. And what I mean by that is really use this opportunity as a time to reflect. And I'll jumpstart it for the listeners. I have 2 questions that I think might help, would be worthy of reflecting on. What am I learning during this period of time? And who am I becoming right now? And if you have one of these handy little leather journals, sit down somewhere quiet. There he is. I knew you were getting yours. There they are. So if you actually use the video, but we're holding up our trustful journals, they were both in arm's length. So notice the trend. Spend time with a cup of coffee in a quiet place in a few hours with 2 questions. And I think you're going to get yourself a lot better, forgive yourself a bit, love yourself a little bit more, and you'll grow for others. And that's what this is all about. So.
Ryan, no one is going to be surprised why you've done well speaking on stages. And I ask the Almighty or the greater forces that be to bless us into better health so that we can start inspiring people again in the ways that have the impact. And I can see and hear and feel why you have that impact with people that work with you. I ask you to continue having that impact on all of us, and just continue to putting out the positive vibes, because at this point, I think the positivity we can continue putting out in the world is really what will help the world change into a better place. So thank you for being my unfiltered guest.
Absolutely my privilege, brother. Take good care.
Thank you. All the best to you. Take care.
Thank you for listening to Unfiltered, the show about authentic leadership and personal growth. Like what you heard? Click subscribe, share it, and tell a friend about it. And don't forget to leave a rating.